Well, let's talk a little bit about the organization you founded, Up with Trees. When did that start? When did you found that organization?
Actually, before it officially got started, there were a group of us had been meeting and trying to beautify the city. There was a negative feeling about highways and expressways being ugly, and quite a few of us had seen the beautiful parkways in the New York City, Connecticut area. And I said, why can't we do that here? And you might say it was under discussion for a year or two, and then the thing that stimulated us, and this was a pretty well-rounded group. We had people from the garden, women from the garden center and the garden clubs, the Chamber of Commerce, the Junior Chamber, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, some of the city departments. There was quite an interest building on let's beautify the city, but we didn't know how or when or it was going to happen. And two things happened. One is we went to Bob LaFortune. I was on the city commission at the time with our idea. There were a lot of beautiful sketches on how you could landscape the expressways. And Bob said to us, you're on the city commission, you know the financial condition of the city. And this is before the city had income coming in from the sales tax. We were really broke at that time. We didn't have money to even repair the streets, let alone build streets. And Bob said, go out and see what you can do in the private sector. The city will help you any way they can, but don't expect money, was the statement. And one day I got a call. We were widening some of the streets in Tulsa, and one in particular was, and some of these streets were old county roads, you know, they really weren't streets. 51st Street, which is south of the Skelly Bypass, was going to be widened from just an old county road to a 4-lane street. And there was this beautiful stand of, we're not sure now whether they were oaks or elms or something, but they obviously were almost 100 years old. Beautiful stand. But they were just 5 feet off of the old county road, and they had to go. And I got the call. It was late one afternoon, and I said, oh, is this another protest call? And the young fellow says, no. He says, I know you've got to do this. The city's progressing, and but I want to know, what's the city doing about replacing those trees? And we had to admit that there was no plan or no funds. And it was a stimulus that we went out and did it in a private way. Found people to sponsor tree sites. I don't think we had the name developed yet of Up with Trees, but
So what year did it officially begin?
in 1975 we incorporated, became a nonprofit organization.
Were people receptive early on in the project, or did the idea of it take slowly to spread?
It was so amazing, really. It's just the young fellow I had met, was a landscape architect, said, what can we do to help? And the city had just remodeled or rebuilt the 21st Street Bridge at Riverside Drive, and there was a piece of land there that could have been landscaped. The city engineer came to a group of us and said, we ought to put some trees there. If you come up with a plan, there's some money left from the bridge construction, and we'll buy the trees. And this young fellow by the name of Randy Heckenkamper, who had started a landscape firm and was doing golf courses. Met him on the street one day, and he said, "Say, is there some way we can help up with trees?" And I said, "Boy, there is. We need a plan. The city engineer will pay for this project if we come up with a satisfactory plan." Well, in a couple of weeks' time, he had a beautiful plan, took it to the city, and they wanted to pay him. He said, "No, this is my civic contribution." And Randy Heckenkamper with the Planning Design Group has done most of the landscape plans for Up With Trees.
Ever since?
Ever since.
Oh, really? Wow. How many, do you have any guess on how many trees have been planted up with trees?
We had a pretty accurate count. We keep the diagrams, the planning plans. And while I was still active, very active, we were up to almost 20,000 trees. And this year, because of the good work of Mayor Kathy Taylor, she's gotten really behind and because of the damage of the ice storm, that's been a threat. But I want to mention what Randy Heckenkamper told us. We were just planting trees up until that time. And he says, "You got to plant spectaculars," he called them, and put your sign out there. And the Rotary Club had given us money to do a project at the airport. And the idea there, let's beautify the entrances to where you come into Tulsa. And he says, put up a sign. So we put up a sign, Up With Trees, Tulsa Rotary Club. But we didn't have a phone, we didn't have an office, we didn't have a place hardly to store our equipment. And the Rotary Club started getting phone calls. "Hey, how did you get to do that?" And there was a fellow that I want to do the entrance to, or the off-ramp that where I turn on to 169. And right away people started calling and offering. The Zinc Foundation. They were very helpful. In fact, two of the Zinc family members were on our board. And they sponsored one on the, we called it the Gilcrease Expressway at that time. It's coming out of the airport and turning onto I-244. And that was just the start. People, really, it was the easy sell.